Good evening, everybody. This is bad news I saw on my Twitter feed, and multiple agencies reporting this now, not just one. So CTV Toronto reporting, breaking, Motors will soon be announcing that it is closing all operations in Oshawa, affecting approximately 2,500 jobs, sources tell CTV News Toronto. And presumably GM's moving back down south because our budget didn't respond to Trump's budget, which incentivized businesses to move their operations back to the United States in order to take advantage of certain tax breaks that makes them eligible for. And it's very expensive to operate a plant in Ontario because our energy prices are high and our labor costs are high and our unions are, very powerful, right? So cost is prohibitive in Canada when you're running a big plant like that, unfortunately. But that's not what tonight's story is really about. Tonight's story is two sides of the immigration coin. One, the first story is refugees are sponsoring Syrian families. Syrian refugees are sponsoring Syrian families through NGOs. You betcha. Yes, they are. And the other part of this coin is maybe Canada does have a birth tourism problem after all. And we're going to look at that. I did a video on that a while ago, back before, a couple of months ago. And I'm going to have the link in the description, and we're going to look at that. But first, refugees sponsor welcome Syrian family to Canada. 5 Syrian refugees families in Brockville have come together to sponsor another family from their homeland. They welcomed the new arrivals at the Ottawa International Airport on Tuesday. They've only been in Canada a short while, but a group of Syrian refugees living in Brockville, Ontario, is already paying it forward by sponsoring a family of 8 from their homeland. The sponsors will act as guides, translators, and an extended family to the Sultans as they adapt to their new life in Brockville. I'm skipping down a bit. And the reason I'm highlighting this is not to because this is meant to sanitize. This is meant to say, look, aren't they great? That's the whole purpose of this article. In the definitely not government paid for, definitely not propaganda CBC, right? We all know what I'm talking about. This is a good guy Syrian family, the happy ending story. But that's not the point here. What I'm talking about is this. The sponsorship program the families are taking part in is administered by the Refugee Hub at the University of Ottawa and funded by 2 charitable groups, the Shapiro Foundation and the Giustra Foundation, as well as 6 other donors in Canada and the US. Together, they're donating $3.5 million to 150 sponsor groups across the country to support the resettlement of 685 refugees drawn from a list compiled by the United Nations. So the United Nations made this list, and these 2 groups are giving 150 sponsor groups the money. So you see how this works? They've got Syrian refugees who they sent to Canada. Then those Syrian refugees have connections with these 2 NGOs, and we're going to look at the NGOs in just a minute. And these NGOs send them $3.5 million to bring in more Syrian refugees. So people, and I'm not going to take credit for this, somebody on Reddit said this, but people with nothing move to Canada and then donate to bring more people with nothing to move to Canada. Does that make a lot of sense? And they're using programs. And my question is, and I don't want to draw a conclusion here, but my question is, should NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and charitable groups like these 2 that we're about to look at have the ability to bring in a population into a country like Canada? 10 at a time, 15 at a time, 50 at a time, 685 at a time. How many before it becomes inappropriate, let's say? How many before the $3.5 million these 2 charitable groups are donating become something else, right? Why is this $3.5 million bringing these people to Canada? Syria is a safe place. This article, the Syrian war is over. It's been declared safe. This article was printed on November 21st. That was a few days ago. Today's the 25th. So Syria is a safe place. Why are we importing people? Why are we allowing governmental NGOs to funnel $3.5 million to continually bring people into our country? Why is that? That is an open question. I'm looking for an answer. I don't have one. So here's the Shapiro Foundation. Welcome to the Shapiro Foundation. About us, our work first, and then how we work. Because I wondered, like, did these refugees contact the Shapiro Foundation, or did the Shapiro Foundation contact them, or was it all coordinated by the University of Ottawa's refugee hub, and the refugee hub coordinated with the Syrian refugees? I really don't understand how the three layers, the Ottawa University of Ottawa Refugee Hub, the Shapiro Foundation, the Syrian refugees, there's so many more questions that haven't been asked that I don't have answers to. And I have a lot of curiosities about this story, more than I'm even sharing here. But anyway, back to the Shapiro Foundation, our work. Quote, "We are proud to be a leader in serving the world's most vulnerable population, the 66 million refugees, internally displaced people, and asylum seekers. Through meaningful partnerships across 5 continents, we are trying to both ameliorate suffering in the most extreme situations as well as actively pilot creative resettlement opportunities for the most fortunate among the population. Our philanthropy is simple. We find the best NGO partners and we fund them. We find holes where other philanthropists won't go and governments can't go, and we seek leverage because we believe that 1 + 1 can equal 3. In addition to our primary focus on the international refugee crisis, we also care passionately about other critical areas, which are highlighted in the next 2 pages." Okay, so the 1 + 1 equals 3, and them using that as their proof of them, thinking out of the box and stuff, just makes me shake my head. And how they work is, I feel like it's even more muddy after I've read this, but how we work. Our foundation seeks to be the most collaborative, nimble, and forward-thinking partner to great NGOs. With that, we do not have a formal RFP process nor specific timelines. We're happy to engage with anyone who is changing the lives of refugees, and we hope to hear from you if you have creative, highly leveraged, critical projects you're launching. So again, my question is, exactly how did all of these groups get together to coordinate a group of Syrian refugees to bring more Syrian refugees? And should that be allowed? Under what Canadian law do foreign people, non-citizens, are allowed to group together to bring more non-citizens to Canada? Why is that allowed? Why is that being totally papered over here in this feel-good story? CBC? How much did this one cost you? Or how much did this one grant you? How much money did the government give you for this one is a good question. Yeah. Right? Sanitize those non-citizens coming here for help from a safe country. The leader of Syria said in the United Nations speech in 2018, Syria is rebuilding. They need upwardly mobile people who are passionate about their country to rebuild their country. Why are they coming here? What is going on? What insane world is this? Really? It makes no sense. Okay. So, and why, again, are groups of non-citizens allowed to partner with NGOs or charitable foundations that partner with NGOs that cross 5 continents, right? These people are not working for Canada. Now, that is not true about the Giustra Foundation. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. This gentleman is Canadian, so perhaps this is the connection. I'm not sure. But he's giving money as well, up to $3.5 million connected with the Shapiro Foundation, right? So together they're giving $3.5 million. That's not a small chunk of change. I don't have $3.5 million sitting around, right? So how did they find these Syrians? How did it all come together? Why are they allowed to spend this money? Back to the Giustra Foundation. Since 2005, the Giustra Foundation has been an active supporter of the International Crisis Group, a widely recognized independent, nonpartisan source of analysts and advice to policymakers on the prevention and resolution of deadly conflict. In 2007, Mr. Giustra and former U.S. President Bill Clinton launched the Clinton-Giustra Enterprise Partnership with the mandate of creating social and economic development programs through impact investing, in parts of the world where poverty is widespread. So I just wanted you to know that he's Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the Canadian part. The Giustra Foundation was established in 1997 by Canadian businessman and philanthropist Frank Giustra. The Radcliffe Foundation supports a wide variety of international and local causes focusing on women, children, education, and jobs. Okay, so that's the connection. I apologize. I highlighted that to highlight the Bill Clinton connection and that he's an international philanthropist as well. So he's got ties to Canada, certainly. So there's motivation there to be connected, I suppose, with the refugee hub in Ottawa. But again, what makes an international philanthropy company, NGO, allowed to coordinate all this? What mechanisms make this money okay? And I'm sure that it is meant as a positive. I'm sure that Liberals will and have rolled this out as a perk to their immigration system. We're not going to pay for everybody because we've got all these. You guys, Canadian citizens, will get together and you guys will put the money together to do this. But the thing is, they've got a loophole in there, and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are, quote, filling the gaps and putting the money there when the intent is for Canadian citizens to do it if we want to. Not, hey, there's 19 spaces left in this year's, and Canadians don't seem to be ponying up. So, there's a gap, NGO. You want to give us $3.5 million? Oh, sure. Yeah. How many refugees is that? Oh, a whole family of 8? Wonderful. Yeah, that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. So, what are you going to do? At this point, what are we going to do? There's no laws against it. Mr. Hassan, our immigration minister and refugee minister, seems to have no wish to change anything about what is happening, regardless of open borders, regardless of Canadian pushback, regardless of anything. They don't seem to want to slow this down. So yeah, $3.5 million. Let's bring that family of 8. Yeah, it's insanity. And birther tourism. I don't know how long I feel like in the last little while, I've been gaining a lot more subscribers quickly. I went through an initial phase of gaining a lot of subscribers, and then it kind of slowed down. And then in the last 4 weeks, I've been gaining a lot of subscribers. So I know a lot of people maybe haven't seen this video, but I did a video a little while back about birth tourism in Canada, and it's linked in the description if you want to watch it. I go in depth about this, but there was a link in a blog I found, and this is the Wayback Machine's tweet. I think the original tweet's probably still there. I'm not sure. I'm actually going to find out in another window. Yep. But the tweet says, "Are you a Nigerian living in Nigeria? Are you considering having your baby or babies in Canada? Please read this thread." And his hashtag baby in Canada. So I was like, I saw that and I was like, well, that's a video. Just that is a video in and of itself. And I went on a whole video, and there is a blog, and I'm not sure. Okay, so this page doesn't exist. It was scrubbed from Twitter, but the Wayback Machine didn't scrub it. Thank you very much, Wayback Machine. And so this launched a video, and so this report was released the other day about birther tourism, and this article, it's an opinion piece, was released today, November 25th, and we're going to go through it. And it's an opinion piece, as I said. Chris Selly, quote, "Maybe Canada has a birth tourism problem after all. The Liberals freaked out when Conservative Party members supported limitations on birthright citizenship, but it's still a perfectly valid idea." Okay, well, here's something curious. Last week, the Liberal government announced it has commissioned research on, quote, birth tourism. That is the practice of coming to Canada with the sole intent of giving birth and returning home with a child who's a Canadian citizen. The government of Canada recognizes the need to better understand the extent of this practice as well as its impacts. Citizenship Minister Ahmed Hassan wrote in a report tabled in Parliament. Okay, so it's a reaction to a new research by Andrew Griffith, a former senior official at Citizenship and Immigration Canada, published last week in the Policy Operations. It suggests the practice may be far more widespread than had previously been thought, and we've got the link right here, but we're not quite there yet. Earlier reported numbers from Statistics Canada, based on provincial records, suggested that there might be 300 such births a year, but a single hospital in Richmond, BC was reporting more. Griffith turned instead to the Canadian Institute for Health Information's discharge abstract database and found that 1.2% of births between 2010 and 2017 in Canada, excluding Quebec, were to non-resident mothers. 1.2% of births. That's incredible. So I went to see how many births every year from 2010 to 2017, because they said it's 1.2% of that total. So I added it up. So how much is it? So the total number of births was hold on, I'm not sure how to say that. Just over 3 million births, and the 1.2% of that is 36,500 babies. So that's 1.2%. So that's not a small population of babies. And what they're doing is they're coming to Canada. If you go back and watch the other article, they come to Canada to have their baby, and then they go back home to wherever they're from. This one's Nigeria, but it doesn't matter wherever it is. And you get your Canadian passport. This whole thread talks about how to make sure you get it, make sure that the doctor knows you're having a baby in Canada and going home. It talks about cost. It talks about everything. It's everything you need to know to fly into Canada, have your baby, get your passport, make sure you bring the baby, because they don't want to just hand out passports if the baby's not there, because it could be for anybody, right? And really, go read the article. There's a blog. I'll leave the link in the description, but the link is in the description from the original video. So this is not just big business. This has been known for a long time. And only now, well, part of the problem is when the CPC brought up during their convention the other week that they're going to end birthright, end birth citizenship right, everybody lost their minds, and that's what the end part of the article here talks about. They're just recounting that essentially. But my point is, we can't even talk about these really, really well-established problems, well-established enough to have 36,000 odd babies who are, 8 years old potentially at this point in time. At least some of them, not all of them, clearly, but some of them going to be that old, been born here in 2010, right? So how long before this group of people come, quote, home to Canada with their valid Canadian passport and they've never been here? How long until they're supporting and bringing in family members from those countries? Is this what we want for Canada? Is this the direction we want it to go? That's the question I've been asking. That's the question I've been asking our leaders to have. That's the question I've been asking Mr. Scheer to take a position on. Thankfully, Mr. Bernier has a position on it. It's the reason I support him. There are a lot of people who think that he's not going far enough. There are a lot of people who think that, and who can prove that the face of Canada is changing faster than any other Western country. Faster. But Faith Goldie was labeled a racist for talking about that. So, but apparently now that there's data, the government is willing to look at this. So, link is in the description if you're interested in more information. If you're Nigerian and looking for information on how to fly into Canada, etc., well, my goodness, unfortunately, there's a lot of information on the internet for you as well. So, scary world we live in. Thank you for watching, everybody, and stay safe out there. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca.